So welcome to part 4 of my video series. And we're finally going to be introducing my track plan and layout and where it's based on. Obviously I told you it's about one of the northern secondary lines in the northeast of the Netherlands between Groningen and Rode School. And I will be modeling the section from Rode School up until Baflo. Reasons for which I will explain as this video goes along. So I hope you enjoy it, and let me know if you have any comments or questions below, of course, and please subscribe if you haven't done so. See you in a bit. Here we go. So here's the line as it is in the northeast of the Netherlands. You can see how it ran towards this is the current layout actually, going towards the port of the Eemshaven, but that's not how the line used to be. It used to end in Rode School, roughly where the arrow is, and that's also the station as I will model it. Right now it's just a single platform along the line on the outskirts of the village. So here we are again with the various stations on a map. Rode School all the way at the top right, and Baflo somewhere in the middle. So if you look at the bottom, Sauert is at the bottom there. That was the split point between the two lines. Then we got Winsum and then Baflo. So that's where I depict my other end station. Although it is a through station, I'll model it as such. So here's the track plan, the way I've envisaged it. If we start at Rode School, we depart the layout in a left direction and then go via a crossing. Crossing is not there in real life obviously, but I'm doing this as a way of lengthening the journey. And then we first get into Uithuizen Maiden, which is a storage, go around the room again and we get into Warfum, also storage, and then finally via the crossing into Baflo. And here are the four stations, two of which are storage, again on the same map. Baflo on the left, Warfum the following station, and then Uithuizen is the last station before Rode School, and that's why I named my two storage yards after Warfum and then Uithuizen Maiden. No other reason than that. But why Baflo? Well, Baflo is the only station along the line that had a completely different station building, and it still exists today. Here it is on the picture. So it's a two-story building and quite a lot of character, and I thought it was fun to model that one, so that's my reason for my choice. Secondary though, there was also some interesting operations there in the past. Here's a local goods train visible in the early 60s. And there was some industry around. There was a weighbridge here, some small goods yards. Here's the same station again in the other direction. A diesel electric 2-car multiple unit is just pulling in. Similar unit, but later years with a different color on them. These trains were taken out of service in 1983. But here, in more modern days, the station still exists. This picture was taken in 2014 by Floris de Leeuw. So, going into the station, I've started with the building, sorry. I started with Warfum storage yard because it's difficult to access later on. So this is where we're starting. And I'm building it in the same direction as the camera is panning, from right to left, so that's where we're starting. And if you wonder what all the blue numbers are, those are the numbers I designated to my blocks. In other words, my DCC occupancy detection, which is particularly important for storage. Anyway, so after having cut out all the risers for the storage yard, a lot of MDF that I had left over, I'm going to fit them to the cross beams. So the first layout supports are screwed in place. We've used these cross beams attached to the actual roof girders of the loft, and these are the supports for what will be the storage yard behind the boards here that will be situated here at the front. There will be rode school, and so they may look a little bit high, but that is because the boards I'm using are kits that have a height of 10 centimeter or 100 millimeters, roughly 4 inches, and so I want to build the storage yard at the same height, so that I don't get any height differences, level differences, and gradients to speak of. Obviously this height here takes into account the thickness of the plywood that will be going on top, which is 12 millimeter. So the top level of this, where the track is actually going to be situated, is 10 centimeters above this cross beam, and that's the same height as the level of the module boards that I'm going to be using, but more on those in another video. Meanwhile, I'm looking at the curve that is going to leading into the storage yard from this side, and I've chosen a 24-inch radius or 60 centimeters. So that is spacious enough to have DMUs, things like Badlopers and DE1 and 2 trains. Negotiate the curve pretty well, as well as steam engines if I wanted to do that in the future, and tight enough to fit in the space and not take off half the loft. So, I've actually used this template on my previous American railroad as well, and that worked quite well with long trains. I was running on that for relatively long trains, but they were heavy. I weighted all my cars down quite a bit, but again, I will explain that a little bit more once we get to the rolling stock that is going to be used on the Rode Schoten Baflo layout. So more on that again in another video. And here we see the first curve cut out of plywood, 12 millimeters fitted. That's the curve leading into the storage yard. And here we see the beginnings of the storage yards as well. It's 3 tracks wide, and that's sufficient for my operations. Obviously you see this flexible vent pipe, so I had to make sure that I had enough clearance, which I'm testing here with this freight car, and that's more than enough. I don't plan to run electric trains, and by that I mean trains with overhead wire. The lines are not, the lines are not electrified up in the north, and I don't believe there's any plans. But regardless of that, I'm modeling the early 80s, and they were definitely not electrified then. That's not to say that there were never any electric engines there, but that's another story. So what I'm doing here is marking out the center of the curved track leading into the storage line. I'm using this handy little tool that is made by Pico, I believe. It's called the Tracksetta. The center is handy, like I said, to mark out the curve. And as I said earlier as well, I'm using a 24-inch radius here, which is nice and wide for trouble-free running of trains. Now these Tracksettas come in various radiuses. I could have gone bigger, I could also have gone smaller, but as I said, I thought the 24-inch radius of 60 centimeters is a good happy medium, I should say. Now they can also used because they're wide enough to clamp between the two rail of a flex track, so it helps you actually shaping a flex track around the corner in the same way. But yeah, handy tool. I recommend you get one if you're building a layout. Obviously the majority of work underneath the baseboard here is going to be track wiring and obviously connecting the point motors. I'm using electrofrogs here for reliable connection. I'm going to do that on most of the layout, if not everywhere. But particularly in storage yards, I think that's a good idea to do. So to give myself a most reliable operation for areas of the layout that in future won't be so easy to reach, because there's going to be a backdrop here separating the storage yards from the scenic area of the layout. I will probably invest in a few cheap CCTV cameras. I'm going to have a little look around on eBay and AliExpress and places like that to get myself a few CCTV cameras to monitor the storage yard from both ends, both from possibly a camera fitting here looking in inwards in this direction and one on the opposite side, to keep a good eye on things, and if there's any derailments I can capture that and deal with it as they come. I'm also likely to fit some type of maybe either some wood strips or cardboard or plexiglass even certainly along the back end to again avoid catastrophes, not wanting frames to derail and fall off the back into the abyss. So stay tuned for that. So as I just mentioned, I'm going to be using electrofrogs. I have several Tortoise turnout motors, point motors left over that have 2 auxiliary contacts. So one of those can be used for the frog, and the other one can be used for feedback signaling. Now I just saw a drill template. Those are really handy to have to get the center hole for the throw bar and the mounting screws in the right place. So here's the first point, and the first Tortoise is underneath, but I'll have to obviously have a quick look if the adjustments are made correctly, so that the point throws correctly before we fit everything in place and cut the throw bar to the right length. So that was that. In the beginning of the first tracks being laid. I won't bore you with every single track being fitted to the storage yard, because it's just a repeat of the process, and this video would get too lengthy, and you know, you'll probably be falling asleep, and so that's not necessary. So the next one, I'm gonna have a little look at the wiring of the underneath, and some of the digital modules that I'm using for the point control and the feedback detection that I'm going to be implementing, because mentioned before, feedback is quite important for storage yard to me, particularly if it's out of view behind a backdrop or a back scene, as they say here in the UK. And the other reason I'm gonna do that is because I intend to invest in iTrains, which is a railroad controls software program available for Macintosh, or Mac as they say nowadays. I'm old-fashioned. Windows and Linux, and I want a graphic representation on a screen with occupancy detectors on it, so I can actually see which track is occupied visually on a screen, and maybe do some automation. That'd be quite fun, I think, but we'll see how I get on with that. In any case, thanks for watching. If you like this content, please like and subscribe, or even buy me a coffee. That would be much appreciated, and I'll see you in the next video.